It's Turok, and today I'm going to do a follow-up video to yesterday's about chapter 1076 of One Piece. By the way, I'm sorry for the echo. I've been trying to research what to do about this, and at the moment, I think the main problem is my room is simply, because it has a higher ceiling, everything is echoing. I thought I could adjust settings on my mic, but I can't find anything to do. I'm recording through my phone and using the front-facing camera, and when I do that, it won't let me adjust those kind of settings. But anyways, I wanted to go over the One Piece chapter yesterday, the second half, because not a whole lot else happened in the first part. We got a little more continuation of what was happening on Egghead Island, and that how do I put this? The Seraphim are attacking all the Straw Hats and the satellites, and Lucci and Lukaku have been released from their shackles so that they can help in this emergency situation. And we did see a bit more about Vegapunk, but I don't know much what else I could put into that at the moment. I got more here that I wanted to bring up right now with Shanks, because he showed up again. He showed up even more so now, by the way. This is awesome. This is probably, which is at least the third time now he's shown up in the last 20-something chapters. He showed up at the very end of Wano to help the, scare off, essentially, Green Bull, the newest admiral that we just finally got to see in the end of that arc. And then we saw him, let's see. He talked to Beckman shortly thereafter, was it 3 times? To say that they were going to go get the One Piece. So, now we see him here again, not, like I said, not much more than 20 chapters later, on Elbaf of all places, right at the same time. He's sitting here already, right at the same time that Kid has shown up. So now we're going to about to have a really epic showdown, I suspect, although probably a bit one-sided. I'm not putting much hope into Kid winning this fight. He already went up against these guys before, although now he does admittedly have his awakened fruit, so we can see what he'll be able to do, especially with he has his magnetic powers, so we'll see about that. But I wanted to start by talking about this, how it seems here that how did Shanks help? Did Shanks have some? I'm thinking the first part I want to bring up is, did Shanks have some part to play in helping Dorry and Brogy? Because they are here on this island at the same bar, and Shanks asks them for help here to deal with Kid arriving on an island. And the last time we saw Dorry and Brogy, it's been like, I did the math earlier, I forget, it was over 900 chapters ago. I think this might actually even be the largest gap in One Piece, in the manga, where we've seen these characters from a long time ago, and I guess we didn't know for sure we'd see them, because these two were still stuck on the island, and they still hadn't won their duel, and they were kind of like dueling for an eternal pose they have. I don't know which one was actually holding it, but they had an eternal pose to take them back to Elbaf, and the fight was over which of them had caught a bigger dinosaur when their pirate crews were there with them, and they were camping out, resting at the little garden, and so they're there out. The Straw Hats had met them at Little Garden. They became involved in the well, no, that's part double reason. They became involved in this situation partially because they're pirates, and they had bounties placed on them 100 years ago, the last time they were seen by the world government or reported to. So Mr. 3 arrives on that island because they figured out where the Straw Hats had gone there, and he found out about Dorry and Brogy also being there. So he made a plan in order to try and capture them as well and turn them into the government. Although now that I think about it, I wonder how they were going to do that, because they were secret agents of a criminal organization run by Crocodile, and even at the time they didn't know that Crocodile was their boss. But they themselves were criminals that the government would probably want, and probably barely knew that these guys, who they were, because they kept their identities, like they weren't out there saying, yeah, I work for this group, you'll never catch me, you damn Marines. So I don't know, I'm trying to think now how Mr. 3 was planning on turning them in. I guess he could just like pose as an average citizen or something and say, oh look, I found these, something, I don't know. It's nonetheless, the Straw Hats defeat Mr. 3. Mr. 5 is also there with and Miss Golden Week, and I forget the fourth girl, the second girl, the one with Mr. 5. They're all defeated, and the Straw Hats found an eternal pose. Sanji, I think, found it. He found an eternal pose to Alabasta, which is where their destination was to help Vivi, and they left Dorry and Brogy there on the island. But they obviously didn't have a ship that could carry them. They were using the Going Merry at the time, and that ship was substantially smaller than the Sunny, and even the Sunny I don't think could house a giant of Dorry or Brogy's size. Maybe a smaller one. I know there are some smaller giants out there. I don't even know if there are two subordinates, the one at Ennie's Lobbies. What's their name again? Oh, looks like Kashi and Omo. I'm going to say Omo for now. If I get that pronunciation wrong, I'll fix it in a later video. So those two, I think, even with their size, would probably not, maybe one of them, if they squeeze tightly on the deck, could sit on the Sunny. But they look like they're in the smaller size of giants, like maybe a third of the height of Dorry or Brogy. So yeah, the Dorry and Brogy are left on the island, and so my question is, how did they get? The question kind of I'm leading into is, how did they leave Little Garden, which is on the other side of the world, by the way? Can they go? I gotta look at a map. I'm wondering if there's any way. Doesn't that mountain connect? I'm just thinking, because they're so close to the end of the Grand Line, can anyone near the end of where they are now, the end of the New World, connect back to at the beginning of Paradise quickly without circling backwards, backtracking as it were, all the way the Straw Hats have been coming from? I'm sure with if the Giants were someone involved in going to retrieve these two captains, maybe it would be easier for them, because they'll have a much bigger ship that need to house a crew of them, and maybe they could pass through even the calm belt easier if they can fight some of the sea giants. Well, no, some of those sea giants are so huge, even giants probably could be swallowed easily and not be considered a snack. But let's see, where was I going with this? I'm wondering if Shanks somehow got those two home. The way that this is I'm reading this last scene of the chapter. The two captains, these two guys, seem to look like they're almost indebted to Shanks. They don't specifically say that. They look like they're really happy to help him. They probably would like someone like Shanks as much as they quickly took to liking Dorry was talking with Luffy and quickly liked him back at Little Garden. So I could see them quickly being endearing, I guess, kind of to forming a friendship with Shanks. And I'm suspecting too, Shanks could be kind of a protector of this island. I'll go more on that in a moment. So I was thinking, Shanks travels around a lot. We know he's gone to the West Blue quickly. He's gone to what was that other place we saw him? He saw that he was somewhere. Him and Mihawk met together 2 years ago, right after Luffy got his first bounty. So Shanks, I don't think really stays in one place too long. I don't think he really has a home base that he squats in, he sits at. He probably has a base. But unlike, especially like Kaido or Big Mom, we don't know much about with Whitebeard. I imagine Whitebeard stayed more out wherever he was in the New World because his home, I think his home island is there somewhere, and he was protecting that and protecting Fishman Island. But Shank looks like he's a globe-trotting kind of pirate. That he doesn't just stay in the Grand Line either side, but he goes to the Blues quite often. So what I'm going for is that he may have stopped there again at Little Garden. By that too, he may have stopped at Little Garden and somehow just pick these two up somehow. That's my initial thought. Obviously, too, the two subordinates, Oimo and Kashi, they could have gone back and got them too. That's the second thing. But because they, I'm thinking about Shanks being the one to do this though, because of his strength, his prestige, even the aura he gives off, he would probably have the ability to perhaps like mediate the two of them, Dorry and Brogy, from fighting, help settle their differences. No, well, not differences. They're friends. They like hug each other at the end of Little Garden. They don't hold any true animosity toward each other, but they quickly like to get into scraps, and this is what's held them on this island for over a century now, if indeed they must have stayed somewhat longer. So over a century. By the way, how the hell did they keep track of that time there? They know they can live longer, so they knew they had the time to stay there and do this duel. And so, hey, how the hell did they keep track of knowing they were there that long? But all right, another little question for another day. Shanks looks to me like someone who could take care of this fight, find a way to deal with this. Shanks to me looks like he has a more diplomatic approach to being a pirate. We saw him go to the Gorosei at Reverie, and he talked to the freaking Gorosei, so he clearly knows how to work with people better. So I could see him going up there and trying to halt these two from fighting. I don't think he would like try to make them his own subordinates, so I'm feeling a little vibe from that. But he would try to, because they're their own captains. They don't want to really follow someone else, although maybe they could become like an ally. And but he could go there and try and figure out, like, guys, you've been doing this long enough. I need you back at Elbath. That's another thing I'm thinking. I saw like someone out teching was saying that maybe the leader of Elbath, like I think they're naming him Odin, like the king of the Scandinavian gods, may have sent Omo and Kashi there, saying that they need them back, that they recall these two from their duel. But I'm thinking that more likely that Shanks has done this, that this island is somehow a protector. He's protecting this island, as I mentioned in yesterday's video, the review, that he's protecting this island from the riffraff that would come to the shores. Like maybe the inner areas of the island are safe and have like, there's probably some huge capital city. There's supposed to be a land of warriors, so there's plenty of them there. But the shores of this island, being part of the New World where lots of pirates have been roaming for decades now, it would seem like a place that would be easy pickings for pirates, because that's what pirates typically do. Like Vikings did the same thing, which the Elbath warriors are based on. They would land in like England or France and other places and raid villages. So I'm thinking about this in a reverse way. This homeland of Elbath would have places like this bar that were shown, and it is these places could be easily attacked by pirates, even human pirates. Because look, if we've seen how strong many human pirates are, like Whitebeard, like Kaido, Big Mom, etc. There are plenty of others out there who have great strength that can even if they're not at that caliber, they would be enough that they could overcome some giant warriors. And especially if they got devil fruit powers. Even Kid, in this situation here, for example, if Shanks wasn't there, and he looks like he's got a fleet of an alliance fleet waiting with him, I think Kid would have a pretty easy time with his current power level of his devil fruit, that is, taking out some of the giants and being able to raid the place. And because we can't forget that too, that Kid, hold on a sec, the display is turning off. Kid is not a honorable pirate. He's not like Law. He's not like Luffy. He's probably not like Shanks. We don't know enough about Shanks, but Shanks here shows off that he's got the way the pirates here, the fact that Dorry and Brogy love him too, especially, says enough for us that the difference between him and Kid. So Kid is a pirate that goes around raiding places, harming people. That's why he had a higher bounty than Luffy pre-time skip. Like, so Luffy did some great things to got his bounty high. He defeated a warlord. He defeated the Cypher. Him and his crew fought and defeated a Cypher pole of a high caliber, which putting them up against the government basically twice by taking out a warlord. So there's a warlord, he's the representative of the government. And so Luffy got a great bounty, doing two big actions basically, while Kid looked like probably was doing multiple somewhat smaller ones, raiding and pillaging. Long story short, the Elbaf would be also a place where he could go to the shorelines and do the same thing, being especially and have an advantage because these are old school warriors who are using axes and swords to fight, stuff like that, spears maybe even, all that kind of hand-to-hand combat, and they'll be using some kind of metal as tips on their spear, the big axe blade, sword blade, and Kid could just take those weapons, form a giant fist, and swat them aside, I assume. So, Shanks is here. So I'm thinking Shanks is here protecting the shorelines. He's picked this spot for some reason. I'm thinking it's because it's close to Laftel, and maybe there's some other stuff going on. Hopefully we get a little more context for that down the line. And that too, I was thinking, even if only Omi and Kashi, if they went there and came back and got Dorry and Brogy and like Shanks didn't befriend them then, they would probably be grateful that Shanks is here protecting the island, as it implies he's been doing for a while, so they would be happy to help him as well. And something else that comes to mind, back at Little Garden, we saw that lots of people end up coming to the island and never leave, because the log post takes a year to figure out where it is and then help you, guide you to whatever other islands are nearby. So most people never left. But did they say most? That's the thing here. I'm sure some people were able to get there and leave. Mr. 3 got there easily. He's not the most powerful character in One Piece. I'm sure there are plenty of characters that have people who have gone there and been able to leave. So I was thinking about this, and that some of these prominent characters that we've known about in the past, like Roger or Whitebeard, probably had stopped there at one time on Little Garden years ago and would have met Dorry and Brogy, because they've been there a full century, just a little over a full century now. So perhaps Shanks was when he was part of Roger's crew, they made a trip back, because Roger looks like someone who's traveling around a lot, much like Shanks does now. So he would have gone back that way, and they would have stopped at Little Garden because the place is no threat to them. And maybe even Roger already knew Dorry and Brogy, came there in his youth with Rayleigh, because he lived in Logtown, which was right before going over to the Grand Line, and Little Garden is one of the first stops. So I could see Roger stopping there multiple times to make little pit stops, and then Shank could have met Dorry and Brogy when they were when he was a young man or even a kid. He started out as a kid, and So him meeting these guys again would also be where they knew him right away, seeing him decades later now. And seeing him now making perhaps a temporary base or protecting their homeland as well to boot. So there's all kinds of layers there where they could know each other. That I could be wrong with him going there. But I'm suspecting that all the more reason could be why he goes back and get them as well. He could know them from meeting them a couple decades ago. Yeah, Roger died, over 24 years ago. And then maybe that's why he knew he'd want to go to Elbaf someday. He'd want to go there to see the land of giants, much like Luffy or Usopp kind of want to now. And then maybe he learned about something going on there, like they're being simply being attacked by pirates. Because maybe I'm thinking that if Shanks is there and he's going out to protect it, I think there's got to be a reason for that, being that the Elbaf is not doing its job of patrolling its own shores, and Shanks is now taking it upon himself. Now, why would that be? Do they now have a shortage of warriors? Because it talks about warriors in plural, where we've heard. But if Shanks is there and so having to help do this job now, taking it upon himself and independently, where it's going on inland, where they can't send out warriors to patrol the shores. Sorry. So yeah, maybe Shanks went there sometime after, maybe independently. That would be in the last 20 years. He's been independently doing his own crew. He would go back to Elbaf and perhaps, because as we noticed too, every Yonko, Whitebeard and him, and now Blackbeard too, and Kaido Big Mom, have been taking certain areas, and Whitebeard and Kaido and Big Mom obviously are doing it to, Kaido's doing it to, he took over Wano and he's using it to exploit and help him create his forces that he would use to wage war. And Big Mom was doing kind of the same thing, while also at the same time trying to rule a nation the way she wants to. So more benevolent in a way than Kaido. So anyways, each of them are taking territories, and Whitebeard's protecting certain areas. Shanks, I could see found this area, thinking, oh well, it's an independent nation, but they're lacking in a little sea patrol. So I'll just help them out with that, because I know these two guys that are from there, that's back on the other side of the world, and they're my friends, so I should help their people out from being attacked by other riffraff pirates. They're similar to Kid with the ill intent to go there and harm even giants. So that's why I'm going with that part. Oh, wait a minute. There was what was that part I was gonna say? There's three things I gotta say. I'm sure. Also, I was gonna say, yeah, I'm sure there's some parts I'm missing with this, because there was a thing of honor with Dorry and Brogy, and I'm wondering if there's a possibility. That's right. That maybe Shanks whoever went there to stop Dorry and Brogy from fighting. I wonder if the fight has basically just been postponed, because I think they really will want to keep that fight going until one of them absolutely and definitively wins. So I'm sure the fight wasn't easily stopped by whoever went there and brought back Dorry and Brogy. So that's all I got on that bit. And by the way, I brought up yesterday how when Shanks was here at this bar drinking out of this sake style cup, the one that I think Japanese use, I think it's looks kind of like a saucer, we would call it here in the US. It is the one he is drinking out here looks to be exactly the same size as what he had when he sat with Whitebeard on that ship, and Whitebeard's ship when Shanks wanted to was requesting the Whitebeard to recall Ace. So he must carry one of these around with him, I'm thinking. And also, while I'm thinking of it, the urn, the kind of jug that he poured out and gave to Whitebeard, I noticed was actually quite a bit large one. And I wonder if that was actually originally a giant type of just a simple flask, or what's another word? I fit those little things that you carry when you're going camping. I'm going to say a flask, a giant flask of sorts that he had with him, and was had filled with it was something from his part of the world, West Blue. Sake. I don't think it was sake. Was it sake? I forget what kind of alcohol it was supposed to be, but it looks like he basically had giant not utensils, things with him that he must have brought with him from visiting Elbath, is what I'm getting at. The next thing I wanted to bring up with this, with Shanks, is that it's cute here how there's this other giant, a little kid, who wants to join Shanks. And this tells me something else that's great about Shanks' character, in that I'm thinking Shanks is basically the inspirational, Luffy's kind of inspirational. I'm thinking Shanks' cornerstone of his character is his kind of like I was going to just say a recruiter, but he's not really doing that either. Well, he did do that as well. His ability, because this kid's on this other part of the world from where Luffy, because this kid's like a carbon copy of what Luffy's like. He's obviously a young Albathian giant warrior, and Luffy just lived in a little village in East Blue. But I'm thinking about how Shanks probably has been going around the world, as I mentioned, and he's probably inspiring other young men, kids, to go around, to want to go out and adventure in the seas. Obviously, Luffy calls himself a pirate, but I've stated before, he really isn't. He's an adventurer who calls himself a pirate because I think he thinks it sounds cool. And I think that's part of the reason he's really got himself in trouble with the Marines in the beginning, because by calling himself that, he's immediately giving people the wrong impression. And he probably threw up a Jolly Roger early on too, and that's going to scare people, because anyone who does that is usually a pirate with ill intent, meaning they have ill intent, and they're going to, you can be planning on being robbed and possibly killed and whatnot. So, but Shanks too is not, to me, really a pirate. I'm asserting he's not truly the pirate in the way we would think of, just the same as Luffy isn't. So that's also what I'm saying, like, if he was, he wouldn't be inspiring these children, like this Elbath kid and Luffy, to go out to sea. And I think that's just great how Shanks goes everywhere and is able to inspire other people to go out there. And it's really awesome how he must go around and see this happening all the time, where he gets. I wonder if he does, like, sometimes bring some people with him that might want to do this, as long as they're like a young adult. So that guy named Rockstar, for example, who he looked like he was pretty young when we saw him take it's only 2 years now, when he took a message to Whitebeard. I'm imagining that some of these young men, if they're like good, they're not little kids, like Luffy was maybe 7, this Elbath kid, as far as giants go, looks about the same range for an Elbath giant kid. So he won't take them with him. Even though, funny enough, he was a kid. I just realized he was a kid, and so was Buggy when they joined Rogers. They would take him aboard Rogers. And likewise, Whitebeard had, what's his name? Who became his second in command. What's his name now? Crap. Marco. I couldn't get his name to come to my head. So Marco was pretty young when he joined Whitebeard. Well, he was close. He was a little older. He was probably 15 maybe. So gray area, if you ask me. If I was in a position of a pirate captain, I'd probably wait till the kids at 18, as we would at the adult age in the U.S. before I take on someone to join a pirate crew. Though even then, it's like you're going out there and we're going to be risking our lives against other crews and whatnot. But I was just realizing, yeah, so that Marco, Shanks himself, Buggy, and even Whitebeard had Teach, Blackbeard on his crew, and he was like 12, I think. So very young. Some of these pirates, they took on very young people, Whitebeard and Roger, into the crew. And I think Shanks, he's being more careful in a way that I like about deciding to let the youth join into this dangerous world of being a pirate in the One Piece world. What was the other thing I was going to say about that then? Yeah, so it's great. The way Shanks inspires people like this definitely is a more positive thing than what the Marines probably would like, but it's something I think is necessary here to, how would I say this? Because the world's going to need more of these people who will want to help defend the people. That's how I want to put it. Shanks looks like a defender, like Whitebeard became too. And if he can create more defenders, people who will right the wrongs here, that it's him going around like this, I think it's something that will help improve the world a little bit, to create these little heroes, defenders like that. So and the last thing, well, maybe not last, but the next thing that was interest of me here is that Shanks said about, I think it was at the end of the Wano arc, he tells Beckman, we need to go get the One Piece. And back then, I thought that meant he was going to go right away and pick it up. But this ending of this chapter now has me wondering if he can't actually get there yet himself. Even though he's been there, I suspect this action makes me suspect it is not so easy for anyone who's been there to simply go back. Because he wants Rockstar to send a message to Kid. He knows Kid has one of the road poneglyph rubbings. Because did Law give him them? So Law and Kid and Luffy, who allied together in kind of this mutual respect now. I know Kid got some of the road poneglyph rubbings at the end of Wano to make things fair. They wanted to have a fair game where each of them are going to go out now to try to find the last one, the one that went missing from, I think it was in Fishman Island. One is missing from, one's still in Zou. Big Mom still has one is still in Wano, right? And Shanks wants Rockstar to tell Kid to give me your road poneglyph rubbings, and as well as leave Elbaf, don't come back. So this right here is the clue for this next, my theorizing here, in that he can't just go back himself. There's got to be something really special about Lord Raftel, as we've kind of understood and guessed all along, but it really requires the map of the road poneglyphs. To get there, you have to know where the other islands are. You have to probably know which islands are the ones that create help create where the figure out where Laugh-Tale is in the middle. So I'm guessing he's gonna have to get him from Kid. But this also implies to me too, he's gonna need to get the others, I guess, from I guess he don't have to. Sorry. I was thinking he has to get the others from Luffy and Law, but no, they all have the equal things now. I was thinking a little bit like, I was starting to get worried that that Shanks was going to have to do that, and he'd have to take him by force from Luffy, but, there's still something there with that, I think. But no, he looks like he's going to need these ones. But I wonder too then if that means I wonder if he knows where the other road poneglyph is. Is it on Elbaf? I'm pretty sure it's been implied, I've heard it implied that that's where it is thought to be, the last word is to be now, is on being protected on Elbaf. So if he knows where that one is, yes, he simply would need all the other rubbings to get to need just the rubbings from somebody, and since Kid should have all three, he just needs those, and then he can go get the One Piece. But this, now I just thought of a little caveat with that. How do I put this? How is he going to read them? Right. Because the caveat too, I think, is if you're someone like Luffy or Momonosuke or Roger, I'm thinking Roger, because they have that voice of all things ability, I'm wondering if one of them who, say in Roger, let's use Roger as an example, he already had the road poneglyphs and he had the voice of all things. Did that make him, was he able to read? No, he didn't read the road poneglyphs, but Odin was with him and he can read the road poneglyphs. What I'm wondering too is if someone like Roger and anyone else with that ability, like the other two, like Luffy and Momonosuke, if they go to Lafdell once they know exactly where it is, I'm wondering with that ability, if they could go back, if they would be able to somehow navigate their way back, that ability would give them some kind of innate sense to go back there somehow. Like I said, Shanks, we don't know much about what Shanks' abilities are outside of the fact he's got great hockey and he's a swordsman, but because he wants these road poneglyphs, I'm thinking he obviously can't go back without those. But I wonder if that would be if someone with the voice of all things would be an exception. So he still can't get. So he's planning on getting the road pon. So that brings up another question: if he didn't end up upon a happen chance meeting red hair Kid, where would he have gone to get the other road poneglyphs to I gotta take a note here before I forget. Where would he have gone to get the other two? Because he'd have to get them from one of these guys who has them all. He might know Luffy has them all, but would he bother to go to Luffy and get them? Wait. What was the other thing? Yeah. So I'm just wondering how did he know too that red hair? I keep saying red hair. Kid has red hair. That's the thing I was thinking. It's funny now that these two are gonna probably clash and they're both redheads. Also, where is Kid from? Is he from the same part of the world? Hold on. Okay, he's from the South Blue. Kid's from the South Blue and Shanks is from the West Blue. But it's just funny they're both red-haired pirates. They're about to go up there against each other. So I keep saying red hair. I was about to say red-haired Kid, but it's interesting that they're about to go up against each other. But yes, where was Shanks? Where would have Shanks got these rubbings from? Because he wouldn't bother. It's clear he's taking advantage of the fact that he wouldn't have to bother going to Kaido's place where now it's safe to go there, or the Big Mom's whole cake to get the road poneglyph rubbing. So somehow I'm thinking he must have some information network of his own to know how to know that Kid has those. And something else with this Kid, there was something with Kid where he knew something at let me check where that chapter. In chapter it was 20 chapters ago, 1056, when they were trying to figure out the wait, let me find it. Actually, it was Killer that brought it up. So in the end of 1056, same chapter here where, it was Law that gave the load poneglyph rubbings to Kid. And Kid brings up, if we want to stay ahead of Law and Luffy, we got to be serious about going after somebody. And Kid brings up a man marked by flames, but we got no leads on where he is. I'm wondering if him going toward Elbath at all had anything to do with that, or if he was planning on going somewhere else. So like, if he ends up getting, I don't think Kid will die here yet, but I want to know like how the Straw Hats will end up figuring out if the Straw Hats, did they hear that was? No, they did hear who it was. This, I want to figure out, see if how they'll figure out what that person's is and how they'll figure out where to go with that lead. Because it seemed like Kid is the only one who actually knows who that is at this time, or Kid and Killer, but Luffy doesn't, obviously. Actually, no, Law and Robin look like they knew who that is. So, well, Law's fighting Blackbeard right now, but Robin, that's it, right? So if Robin, I was just thinking about that because I thought maybe Killer and Kid were the only ones who really understood that, but no. If Robin knows it, that might be the next lead they'll need to get ahead and find the last road poneglyph. If indeed, like, I'm thinking about this from an angle where, like, maybe Shanks doesn't know where the last one is either. If he doesn't, I'm thinking how he'll have the rubbings perhaps from Kid soon, but he'll have to probably find out whether through talking to Kid or unless he kills him or defeats him here and Kid flees. Going and talking to Law or Luffy and Robin, Shanks will somehow have to communicate with one of these guys about what the last road poneglyph is, which may allow some interaction here where Shanks maybe and Luffy finally come together that way. Through them all now seeking the One Piece. 'Cause now for some reason, that's the thing too. In this chapter, was it 2 before here, is where Shanks brought up he wants to go after the One Piece. So we still don't know why he's doing that now. But so it's interesting now that he's now the next player we have. Because all along I was suspecting he was just someone trying to perhaps protect the One Piece. That he was staying out in New World, close to Lafdell, close to it in the New World to protect it from people like Blackbeard. Kind of like seeing if other people maybe are worthy to get it as well. But the fact that he travels around a lot kind of leads me now, and that he's looking for these poneglyph rubbings tells me that he can't do that in the same capacity or the amount of can't do it the way I thought he did, because he probably wouldn't know exactly where it is. It's kind of protected in of its own because no one can get there for some reason that we will find out. Last thing too on that, how would Shanks be able to read these things? Because he doesn't have someone like Nico Robin with him that we know of, and he doesn't also have someone like Pudding with him that we know of. And third, as far as we know, he doesn't have the voice of all things himself. So it's interesting that he's going to gather these, and he wants to get the One Piece, but by what means will he end up going to Lafdell if he could get all of them before everyone else? And also, why? So maybe he'd have to talk to Luffy and ask Robin. Maybe they'd have to team up to go there themselves. That's a possibility, and that would be an interesting one if he did want. If he wants to get it for again, what does he want to get it for? So something's important here where he wants to get it, and it's the question of whether he wants to get it himself before anyone else can get to it, including Luffy, or if he would want to work with Luffy to get it, to protect it from someone like Blackbeard. And what was the last thing on that? So that's the thing, why now? Why is Shanks trying to get the One Piece now? When all along it seems like he had no interest in it. He's been working where has his goals have been for now, right? Because he's out here traveling around the world. He became a Yonko. I was talking about how he just seems like he's a defender. He's defending maybe Elbath and some other places. But now he wants to get the One Piece right at this time when there's Kid and Shank, all the other Yonko obviously have been wanting to get the One Piece for decades, well, except Whitebeard, of course. Kaido and Big Mom have wanted it forever. And that's why they established themselves with their own type of base of operations to create forces to eventually probably take on each other. And Whitebeard definitely didn't care. He definitely had this defender role I'm discussing that I thought Shanks kind of had all this time. So it's very interesting that now, of all times, with so many other pirates so close to getting it, that he's decided, no, I need to go get it now. It's time for us to pick it up. So I want to say it's just because Blackbeard's almost ready to go get it, But I feel like there's something else going on here, that a mystery here that Shanks, something that will be unveiled when we get more on Shanks in the future, that he's having a reason to. Almost as if I'm thinking at first, he feels the others, even Luffy, are not worthy to have it, and he needs to have it for some reason, because he knows what it is. Likely he went there as a kid, so there's something he knows about it, I think, compared to the others, because obviously no one else here that wants it badly. Kaido, Big Mom, Law, etc. Kid, they don't know what it is. So he knows what it is, and he's gonna gather it because he has a purpose for it, like almost like it's an object or weapon, whatnot, that he needs now. Actually, maybe that's part of it. Maybe because he went to the Gorosei and he struck out, and whatever he wanted to talk with them about, he needs the One Piece, because he has to achieve something that he thought he could do by having them do something, taking out something to do one Blackbeard maybe, but now that didn't work, he knows he needs the One Piece, as if it's like a weapon perhaps, to achieve stop whatever he's worried is coming. Yeah. One other thing too, it's interesting now that after all this time, we've only knew about Shanks and his single ship. What's it called? The Red Force. It's interesting that his ship is like, up until now we only thought about him having a single ship with a crew of how many did he have? We saw maybe a dozen or so members at Marineford with him, but now we see that he definitely does have a large alliance backing him up. Oh, one sec. A large alliance backing him up. That he has gathered while traveling around. I'm wondering if these are only ships in the New World that he has with him that are from other nations there, or other pirates that traverse that area, or if he's gathered some of these people by making friends in other parts of the world, much in a way that Luffy has kind of done with other places, mostly here in the Grand Line, like Alabasta, Dressrosa, Water 7. If any of these ships are those kind. No, actually, the way they're implying it here, whoever's, I think that's Killer, Briefing Kid, that the way he's implying it, these are probably all pirates that are allies with him. So maybe not other nations. Maybe that's something uniquely that Luffy has going for him that I think will help him in the end in Laftel, if he calls for like rallies for help. People like Water 7, Alabasta, or Dressrosa could send some naval ships of their own to aid in like fighting against like Blackbeard. So this is finally the first glimpse we see of his influence with other pirates, that he's not just his own ship going around, although we've seen that with what he has there, he's definitely got like the somewhere it was said like his force is like the biggest, well-rounded. It's like the average of the bounties among his crew members is the best of all the Yonko, because like we had, the Whitebeard obviously 5 billion, and Big Mom Kaido 4.3, 4.6 respectively, but their crew members were not all as high bounties. Katakuri, a little over 1 billion. King and Queen and Jack are all impressive too, but so these guys were obviously a force to be reckoned with in their bounties. We haven't seen the other bounties, but was implied to be enough to show that. But now they have allies as well. It's very so obviously Shanks knew he needed these for something. So I'm just wondering if it was for this kind of role where he was protecting other places like Elbath, or if he's expecting a war with someone like Blackbeard, who's also created a large, personally has a force with his leading men and women, leading them to fight. So Shanks obviously knew something would happen, big would happen at some point, and he's gathering these allies. Very interesting to see. By a little tidbit there with I was just thinking yesterday it was interesting now that Luffy too has a fleet now after Dressrosa. I think most of the ships are all like Olympus, was that his name? And then we have like Cavendish and Bartholomew, what's his name? They got the force field. They all joined him, and they got their own ships, and they've pledged like allegiance to Luffy. I was just thinking it's fortunate that none of them ever went up and met someone like Mihawk and got themselves cut down, much like Don Krieg's fleet did, because he created a giant fleet. I think he had 5,000 men. So he had like, if I remember right, yeah, I think he had even more men overall than we knew that like maybe Whitebeard even had. But as we saw, there was this quantity and there wasn't enough quality of that. And they got cut down quickly when they started going into the Grand Line and they happened to pass by Mihawk. I think it's fortunate that at this point that hasn't happened to Luffy's crew, and I hope they stay safe from meeting any kind of top tier enemies. They better be careful of like going near anything where Blackbeard could be, for example, because I don't think any of them will stand a chance against any of Blackbeard's captains, his main subordinates, Shiru, Jesus Burgess, and stuff like that. So they better just be very careful with that, because they'll be helpful, I think, against Marines in general, except maybe some of the vice admirals and obviously admirals. But and then the same thing with any top tier pirates. The last thing, what was I going to say with that? Was Shanks. Also, yeah, what do you think about Shanks? I wonder if Shanks will end up wanting to. Well, he makes it clear he doesn't. It seems to me he will try to take out Kid, but I'm wondering if how this fight will go down now, because it's gonna get serious here. It looks like Kid is determined now to prove himself. I put that in the title of my last review, that he's got to prove himself here. I think he's probably upset at this point that he got a huge bounty, but one, he had to work with Law to beat Big Mom, and two, him and Law, he's probably upset that he's not considered a Yonko. I'm thinking here he's really feeling this. Is that a chip on your shoulder? He's feeling like even with his bounty high enough, he wants that status. And I think he's really determined here to try to take out Shanks by himself now, because Law's not there, Luffy's not there, like his other contemporaries that on that scale, that worst generation, as the government and the populace at large calls them. None of them are there now. He wants to have that glory of taking down or even defeating someone like this, so that he can gain some kind of status there. So I think he's foolish for doing this at this juncture still. Like, has he even learned how to use the advanced armament hockey? I saw if he had something like that, because I don't think he learned that though when he was fighting Kaido, and he kept amassing huge amounts of metal and bringing it down on Kaido, and as far as I can recall, it didn't work. So if he hasn't learned how to maybe use that kind of hockey with his power, I don't see him having a chance here against someone like Shanks either, who we know him and Kaido squared off before, and he stopped Kaido somehow 2 years ago, although he could have just bribed Kaido with huge amounts of alcohol, I suppose. But Kid's chances to me don't look that good, and I just don't know how I think his ambition here, similar to how Luffy is determination, are their biggest weak points to taking on foes stronger than them, and not understanding their enemies well enough, not having the information, not spying on them somehow, figuring out what they can do that will hurt him here, much like Luffy when he tried to fight Kaido at the beginning of Wano. Even like the fact that Shanks is going out here and he looks so calm too, just enough tells me that he's not scared of Kid, that he's ready to go out there and do what he has to do. He knows his place in the world. He knows who he can stand up against nowadays. Like he admitted he got caught off guard and getting that scar from Blackbeard. When he told Whitebeard, and that fight maybe that fight happened years ago before he was a Yonko. So like by fighting someone like Blackbeard and being up against Shanks and Shank going up against Kaido, Whitebeard, and Blackbeard now, he seems to really know his place in the world enough to that compared to Kid, that I think he really knows he has the advantage here. So I don't know if Shanks would really want to kill Kid. Will he try to just scare him off with his... He probably won't use his Conqueror's Haki. Kid is definitely immune to something like that. Rayleigh used it and it didn't phase him 2 years ago, and he's much better, he's much stronger now. So he's probably going to use his sword skills, or if he has... Well, we still don't know too if Shanks has like a devil fruit. I'm thinking he's not. I think this would be the one character. I've speculated about Roger having a devil fruit. I still think he may have had Blackbeard's devil fruit. It would be cool if he didn't, but also I think it would be kind of a cool twist if he did have a neat devil fruit power that we didn't know about, or had Blackbeard's fruit. I have to make a new video about that someday. The bottom line of that is, my theory about that is that I was trying to figure out how Roger would stand a chance against Whitebeard all those years when they were equal rivals after as Whitebeard made his own crew. And I was thinking about how cool it would be that how it is that maybe Roger had that fruit, maybe he got it from rocks, and that he'd be able to use that to nullify Whitebeard's fruit, the way we saw Blackbeard do it. And that is why when we saw them clash briefly on that island and through Odin's viewpoint, they were only doing that because they both knew that using their devil fruit powers would not make this fight, would not allow... Whitebeard knew he couldn't win that way, and Roger would say, yeah, I know I can stop you, fruit. And also that they respected each other by that point on top of it, and that they would fight they would fight using their weapons. So that's my speculation on Roger. But Shanks, I can see him not having a devil fruit. I think it would be cool for him not to have one. It fits him well. Roger, with the mystery around him, I can see him not having one, but I kind of hope that theory is true, because it would just seem interesting that this pirate had this darkness fruit. Also because everyone considered him so evil, and he caused all this problem. Him having this darkness fruit kind of fit the almost a motif or image that everyone else had of him. Now we know he's not a bad guy, but anyway, so Shanks would probably have to use his sword skills against Kid's magnetic skills here. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I can't think of much more to put into this. My speculation is he could just cut apart all of Kid's magnetic appendages and things constructs he can create, and then he'll probably could use like speed and his speed or such to getting close to Kid, because Kid will probably fight at a distance with those constructs and arms he creates, much kind of like he did. I don't believe he ever got close with Big Mom. And also, though, he did have another technique too. I gotta look at his awakening again. I think he was able to launch some kind of beams, right? Magnetic powers. He might try to use that on Shanks. That's the other thing too. Shanks has a sword, so maybe Shanks will not want to use his sword because that appears to be his main form of attack. He's a swordsman. We know he fought with Mihawk and they had duels. So Kid will probably try and take away that advantage right away. So it will be interesting to see how Shanks is prepared. Because again, he looks very calm here. So maybe he's prepared not to even use that. He's only got one arm, but he's very strong. So that might be all he needs to use like armament haki or advanced armament haki to deal with Kid's constructs, magnetic constructs, metal constructs, and do this kind of damage to get in there. Or maybe this will be something where we'll see the end of the fight and we'll learn a little bit more about how Shanks does fight other than using a sword. Maybe he does have something like a devil fruit ability. Again, with him, I kind of hope he doesn't have one. But if he doesn't, will he simply just power his way through a fight with Kid? Maybe that is all he needs, because Kid, I don't think, a Kid looks like he is pretty buff. We saw him in the Udon prison running around with him and Luffy going on equal footing, going around carrying those blocks. But Luffy was wearing his Sea Stone's prism, which prevented him from really, I think, tapping into his full strength. Because Luffy, Luffy's rubber, but he also uses that rubber to empower himself by using the Gear Second and the other versions of that. So I think Luffy too is even stronger than Kid when he can jump in the Gear Second, Gear Fourth, etc. And so Kid is impressive there, but I think using Luffy, if I'm right with Luffy being that much more stronger than him there, Shanks' physical strength is probably going to easily outshine whatever improvements Kid has in his physical attributes there. So maybe Shanks' physical ability of just even one arm will be all he needs using armament hockey to destroy Kid's metallic constructs and bust up Kid good. Also, I hope Dorry and Brogy are careful here, because as Tekking pointed out, even they all have looks like they just like to use metal. They have metal weapons. They could get hurt in this fray between Kid and Shanks, because Kid can just pull all the metal weapons toward him that everyone has here, just like he did at Sabaody, and he pulled all those metal weapons from the Marines that were surrounding him and Luffy and Law, and then there was metal weapons from inside the auction house that came out and added to the big fist he made there. So I hope they're careful there, because we just got them back. I don't want them to get hurt. Also, is that their ship? I'm wondering if they're on the I wonder if that's their cruise ship there on the parked on the offshore of the bar, because it's definitely not doesn't look like it's Shanks' ship. And by the way, Shanks' ship having that Viking look, I'm guessing he must have got it built here, which is pretty cool. So also showing like he seems to have a strengthened relationship with the Vikings here, the Albathians. I guess that's it today. So yeah, I think in my next video I'll go over more about some stuff with the I had another topic about with the stuff going on in Egghead, but I wanted to get into Shanks more today. Thanks for watching.